What's going on, guys? Pixelated here, back at it again with another video. Today we will be looking at my first ever NMD R1 purchase and how it had stood the test of time a year and a half, almost 2 years after its release. Now, as we all know, the Adidas Ultra Boost has been around for a hot minute now, as well as the NMD. People first started to get familiar with the Ultra Boost when Kanye wore them on stage about 2 years ago. This really took Adidas's popularity to new heights because literally no one cared about the Ultra Boost until that very moment. The Ultra Boost became this highly regarded shoe, and the 1.0 model, which is what Kanye wore at the time, goes for hundreds to 1,000 above retail depending on which pair it is. Obviously, Kanye's signature line with Adidas helped hype the brand as well. Adidas used this hype to capitalize on another groundbreaking silhouette at the time. It was the NMD R1, which at the time was referred to as the NMD R1 Runner. Runner has since been excluded from the title on their shoe boxes since then, because we all know you can't run in these. These NMD R1s that I have in front of me were from the huge global release Adidas had of the NMD R1, which was their way of introducing these sneakers to the world. They did have two models already out by that time of this sneaker. It was the NMD R1 PK in the OG colorway, and the second one was the Key to the City Consortium pack. Both were extremely limited down the line, not that it mattered at the time, but those sneakers became extremely popular later down the line, although they did still sell out on release. They were both obviously made of a prime knit construction. Getting back to this pair though, I got these from that huge launch as I mentioned previously. Adidas had this huge NMD R1 launch back in March of 2016. They released in multiple colorways, and this was the same time the OG City Sock released. As you can tell and probably know by now, these are not made of the favorable prime knit material, but are rather made of what Adidas called circa knit at the time, which is still a knit, but not the same caliber as prime knit. In other words, you get the similar look of prime knit without the hefty price point. We don't see much of these models anymore. It's either prime knit or mesh. There's no in between for NMDs, save for the few one-offs you'll see made of leather or nylon or canvas or some random material. Speaking of circa knit, you might save on the price, but my guess is it also stretches unlike the PK, and we'll get into why I think that in a bit. Now, when I first got these, I wasn't sure about sizing because people were saying go half size down, but a day before release, I was hearing more people say go true to size, so I ended up going true to size, which is a huge mistake. Thankfully, I was able to size swap for half a size down at a sneaker convention. As you can see, I have taken these sneakers through the runs. As soon as I size swapped them, I pretty much wore them every day whenever I could after that moment, and this was at a time where I started buying more and more sneakers, and it was also because they were so comfortable and light, and to be honest, it was something I had never experienced before, a sneaker so light and comfortable where the upper is almost entirely made of like a cloth-like material. But once I piled a few sneakers on, I decided to retire these NMD R1s from regular wear and started wearing them exclusively to the gym. This means they were being stretched out every which way. I should mention that at half a size down, they fit all right, but there was still a bit of space, so I bought a pair of extra insoles. I have these Dr. Scholl's insoles in here, and with the insoles, they fit perfectly. So at half a size down, even with the extra insoles, but even at half a size down with the extra insoles, sometimes depending on what socks I wear, there's still space, which leads me to believe that they do get stretched out. They're worn in enough that there's still space. I'm convinced this is due to the wear and tear because they definitely didn't feel this baggy when I first used to wear them. I think it's safe to say this might be the primary reason we don't see circa knit being used as much anymore. Mesh definitely wouldn't stretch out in the same fashion, and prime knit, even though it's pretty forgiving, it still manages to maintain its shape and tautness, if that's a word, over time with wear. Also, I mean, the green stains around the Boost might be somewhat of a giveaway, but I did end up cutting the grass in these a handful of times too. I just couldn't find my other shoes that I exclusively cut grass in, and there were no other shoes around. These were the only other shoes I didn't mind destroying, and so they got the job. Now, I don't think this happened just because I cut the grass in these, but I think this happened over time, but you can see the material on top of the sneaker is just frayed all over the place. I was having a difficult time showing it through the camera, even with the close-ups, but there's a lot of fraying going on around the toe box area. It's noticeable in person, and there aren't many things out there that bother me about sneakers, much like a frayed, a dirty sneaker you know you can clean, a sneaker with damaged laces you know you can replace. Leather sneakers don't fray, but when a sneaker frays, there's no going back from that. I actually had another pair of sneakers, the Nike SB Waffle Dunks, that were made of a cloth-like material that ended up fraying too. They got super muddy, and in my attempt to clean them, the material frayed, and I honestly had no other choice. And there was no going back from that, obviously. Thankfully, it was still within Nike's 30-day return policy, so I sent them back promptly. So in that regard, you're kind of just SOL or shit out of luck with these. This hasn't been an issue with prime knit pairs as far as I'm aware, so you should be good on that front as long as you don't clean them with like rough bristles or whatever. But beware if you have some of the OG circa knit pairs like this one, like the one I do, just be gentle. Don't gym in them or cut the grass in them strenuously like I do, or do if you don't care. Sneakers are meant to be worn anyway, but it really depends. If that's your go-to pair, definitely don't wear them out the way I do. When it comes to the wearing over time of Boost sneakers, a lot of people talk about the effectiveness of the Boost and question whether it maintains its springy or cushy characteristics, or does the feedback and effectiveness of the Boost tech dull down after a while. I can honestly say with most of my Boost sneakers that I've never felt the Boost become any less effective over time. I will say this though, I once bought a pair of heavily worn high snobiety Ultra Boosts, and I mean heavily worn, like a 6 out of 10. Insole was dug into, Boost was yellowing with permanent stains. I don't know if it was just placebo, but I definitely felt like the Boost in that shoe might have lost some of its spring. That was the one occasion I had potentially felt a difference though. With these, I still feel the Boost. I don't think it's lost any of its cushion. However, I do also wear it with the insole in, so that potentially keeps me from feeling any of the difference in the Boost. I did try it on without the insole just to make sure, and it still felt the same as it did on release day. Well, not release day, whenever I did the size swap. With that being said, I do highly recommend wearing your NMDs with insoles in them. They increase the comfort significantly. I wear half a size down in prime knit and evidently in circa knit, but if I had to put an insole in a prime knit pair, I would go my true to size and just put an insole in. I think it's safe to say for anyone who plans to wear their NMDs extensively, they generally do not feel like a pair of sneakers that are meant to last an extremely long time. And to that extent, I give Adidas credit because these have held up well against a lot of strenuous wearing. I pretty much did everything I could do in these that I wouldn't do in other sneakers. I treated these as beaters, and the shoes I did dirty work in. Surprisingly, the Boost has held up. The material might be a little frayed, but it still does the job, albeit being a tad looser than they were initially. The Boost has maintained its responsiveness and comfort, and if it wasn't for me cutting grass in them, the Boost probably wouldn't be as dirty. Speaking of which, I'm going to do a quick Jason Mark cleanup on them just to see how much we can revive these for the last bit, and I'll just pop the video on as I speak. But there you have it. These have held up pretty well. I expect the prime knit and mesh versions of the NMDs to last far longer and maintain their break-in properties for far longer as well, if not till the end of the sneaker's life. Clearly, these sneakers still have a lot of life and juice in them, especially if I didn't wear them to the gym. With that being said, rest assured your prime knit and mesh pairs will last far longer. Well, mesh is a little more rigid, so if you do put it through some kind of strenuous activity, maybe the mesh might separate from the Boost insole, but that's not very likely. That's a very extreme scenario. But with that being said, if you took anything from the video, please hit that thumbs up. I was really impressed by how far these sneakers got. Let me know what your experiences have been with NMDs and how long yours have lasted. And please subscribe for more juicy content. Catch you later. Picsoleated out.